Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Force Friday show, the weekly Star Wars show from Movie Burner Entertainment, where we discuss all things Star Wars, be it books, canon related, movie related, everything relating into Star Wars. And we've got a couple of things to discuss this week, Stephen, so what's first?
Yes, we have, John. Academy Award-winning Star Wars composer John Williams says he's ready to quit scoring the franchise. The 86-year-old musician told radio station KUSC he plans to work on the upcoming Episode 9, but then he's finished.
Yes, this isn't really a surprise, to be honest with you. He's in his mid-80s now. He's obviously a wildly successful composer. For me, he's probably one of the greatest composers of all time. Period, not just in film. Period. He's just an absolute genius. I've had some phenomenal moments with this guy's music over my lifetime. It's not a surprise though. I mean, he's getting on in years. And I'm just happy to have him scoring the Han Solo theme in the next standalone release, and then obviously his big finale with Episode 9.
I'm looking forward to the Han Solo score that he's going to compose, John. Sad to hear, but it's just life. As you said, he's in his mid-80s now. Franchise itself is going to move on for the next 20, 30 years when Disney took this franchise over. He's been a big part of my life out with Star Wars as well. When you think about movie franchises like Indiana Jones, Harry Potter, Jaws and E.T., just to name a few, Superman as well, but I think he did the first original movie with the Christopher Reeve one. He also said that he agreed to do the score for The Last Jedi because his favourite new character was Rey, played by Daisy Ridley, was returning. I think he had a little bit of a crush on her. And he also admitted as well, which doesn't come as any surprise, he said that when he scored A New Hope back in 1977, he didn't realise there would be sequels, so he must have thought this was going to be a one-off movie and, he would go into other things. But this will be his 9th film. He's composed them all. It kind of hints to me that this will be the last of the saga films anyway, but we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, with the news, the Rian Johnson trilogy and the upcoming series of films directed by David Benioff and Daniel Weiss. So, as I said, it's sad to hear, but it's not really a surprise, really, is it, John?
No, it isn't, Stephen. It is sad though, and it's very much signals an end of an era, certainly for Star Wars anyway, and which could be a good thing, that could be a bad thing. I can't see many positives in it myself, but I mean, that's just life, Stephen. People grow older, Father Time catches up with us all, and what can you do, man? He's getting on in years. Certainly, I would hope that he makes it to Episode 9. I mean, I don't like saying that. I think they're going to start filming next year, but certainly that's maybe a year and a half down the road before he actually gets in and starts composing. So you're talking, he's not far off 90 by that point. So he said very good innings with the Star Wars franchise. They certainly can't complain. The guys gave it his all. I found it very interesting in one of the quotes I read that he says, we know J.J. Abrams is preparing one for next year that I will hopefully do for him, and I look forward to it. Does that not speak volumes about the chap and the modesty of him when he's saying that he'll hopefully do it? If this guy is willing to do a Star Wars film and he's still fit and able to do it, you best believe he's going to be scoring a Star Wars film. There's no hopefully about it, man. I mean, that speaks for the modesty of the chap. He's one of the greatest film composers of all time, and he's saying he'll hopefully do it. I mean, what, John? Come on, you're a genius, mate.
Yeah. I certainly think that J.J. Abrams would echo those thoughts as well, John. Certainly I think there's a bit of modesty in there from Mr. Williams. He's not assuming he's going to be doing Episode 9. He's probably just not been asked yet, but I think it's as long as he's around, he will be doing it. The man, I think he's the second most Oscar nominated person in the history of cinema, which I think is amazing. I don't know who the first is, but
probably Roger Deakins.
Probably Roger Deakins, yeah. But it's his work throughout the years, and I know this is our Star Wars show, but it's just been a big part of my life, since I started watching movies. Star Wars obviously is the one. When you mention John Williams, it's the first one you come to, and not just the main theme, but when you think of all the Imperial March, the Luke and Leia, Rey's theme, Kylo Ren's, the modern ones, they're so memorable. You get Duel of Fates, from the prequels. I could go on and on and on. That's, they're so memorable and iconic at the same time. Yeah, I mean, we've both agreed that, The Last Jedi perhaps wasn't the most, I wouldn't say interesting, because I loved some of the score in The Last Jedi, some of it, especially when Luke was going out to face Kylo Ren. I thought that score was absolutely chilling. But The Last Jedi perhaps wasn't the most sort of new material in there. It was mostly regurgitated themes from the past, remixed and stuff. But yeah, I think films like, the Superman theme, which is probably my second most favourite theme from John Williams, is so memorable. Anytime you hear it, you know exactly what it is. E.T. as well. E.T. was a fantastic score as well. Indiana Jones as well. We could actually just have a show just talking about all these iconic themes that he's created.
It's quite funny you actually mentioned E.T., Stephen. I was whistling that the other day and actually brought it up on YouTube and had a play. That is a phenomenal, very original theme, the main theme. It's just, I mean, there's so many questions this brings up, which I will get round to. But you're right about the music, Stephen, that he's produced over the years in various different franchises. It's ridiculous, really. My second one's probably the Harry Potter stuff he done. I just thought that was phenomenal. The first two films, the score in them is amazing. The first question I would ask is, do you think this is going to signal the retirement of him in general, or do you think he's just stepping away from Star Wars? Do you think, coming up to 90 nearly, after episode 9, do you think this will be him retiring from all scoring in general? The second one I would ask is, what do you think is probably your favourite Star Wars theme out of all the ones? That's a real tough question for me. I would have to go with probably, that's a real tough one. I like the Dual Sunset one. I can't remember, I always forget the actual name of it, but it's an amazing one, the one when the sunsets go down. I know it's not Luke's theme, sure it's a Dual Sunset, but I loved Leia and Han's as well, which get beautifully reworked for the Force Awakens, and also Yoda's theme as well. I loved hearing that again in The Last Jedi. That was a goosebumps moment. Just briefly before I let you in with answer these questions, Stephen, just discussing The Last Jedi, I do agree it wasn't the most original, but I did like the way he reworked some of the songs in it. I mean, just like the Spark, it was a reworked sort of an upbeat, heroic Imperial March. That was amazing the way he did that. And as it says, the Secret Jedi text, that was a combination of the Yoda theme and a couple of other themes, and it was just the way he amalgamated certain themes and made them something new was quite cool. So it wasn't too bad for me. But yeah, that would be my two questions on this, Stephen. There'll be another one before we go on to the next subject, but what's your favourite theme, and do you think this is him retiring in general?
I think this will be him retiring in general. I think by the time episode 9 comes out, it's going to be 2019, John, the end of 2019, so you get into 2020 by that point. He's going to be 87 at 88. Sad. It really is sad, but it's a reoccurring theme for Star Wars, and it's people. Harrison Ford's moved on, George Lucas has moved on, Mark Hamill has moved on in a sense, could come back as a Force ghost, I suppose, but Carrie Fisher's sadly passed away. Kenny Baker passed away. Peter Mayhew's stepping down as playing Chewbacca. It's now that younger fella. It just seems to be, that there was always this phrase going about at the time when the sequel trilogy was announced of passing the baton, if you like. We call it a baton over here, but that certainly was getting passed about, and it certainly is coming through. There's a new phase of characters and actors, and that's not any different to composers as well. We've already seen that they've used a couple of composers in Rogue One. Some of it worked. The ones that did work over Scarif, that score, I can't remember who did the score for it again. And it was one of the most memorable parts of that movie, so it can work. There was parts of the score in that film that were very off-putting. I didn't like the Krennic, arriving at Vader's castle. I didn't like that theme. I didn't like the intro either. So there's a lot to learn. I think Ron Howard for Solo did something very clever, involving John Williams, but most of the score, predominantly I think 90% of the score, is going to be the new composer coming in. My favourite theme probably from John Williams in Star Wars film is the twin sunset.
Yeah.
It's also used at the end of The Force Awakens, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it certainly was used for, Luke, becoming one with the Force. Such an iconic and emotional score.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one that John Williams will probably be remembered for the most. And you've got to remember, that's over and above the main Star Wars theme and over and above the Imperial March as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree completely, Stephen. And that is the name. It's the Twin Sunsets. It's not Dual Sunsets. I'm getting mixed up with the Duel of Fate. The final question I'd ask in this would be just touching on what you says about Michael Giacchino, obviously scoring Rogue One. That was very mixed reaction. I actually liked parts of it, but certainly I can get on board with the whole, it wasn't very Star Warsy, but obviously he only had about 3 weeks or something to score that film, so I'm not going to be too harsh on him. He's always been seen as the sort of heir apparent to John Williams. Who would you like to see maybe stepping into the main saga films if they are to continue going forward? Who would you like to see scoring? I don't know, the Rian Johnson, the Binoff Vice films. Would you like to see an Alexander Desplat coming in, or would you prefer to see Michael Giacchino being given another shot at it? Because also Desplat is a phenomenally talented composer. Giacchino, great composer as well, but do you think Rogue One's affected it, or do you think he'll get another shot at it?
I think Desplat would be a good call, John, after The Shape of Water.
Yeah.
One of my most favourite composers is Hans Zimmer, but I don't know if he's right for the Star Wars brand. I love his scores. I love what he did with the Dark Knight trilogy, etc. But I don't know if it would overtake. I think his presence, for a score might overshadow a lot of the the film's visuals, etc. John Williams just seems to have a knack of adding atmosphere to the Star Wars universe, and I think Desplat could certainly fill the role. Alan Silvestri, I love the guy. I don't know if he's right for Star Wars brand, very similar to Zimmer. He's been in some, he's been involved in some of the most iconic films as well, Forrest Gump, Back to the Futures, etc. So I think Desplat would certainly be at the top of my list.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a very specific feel you're going for in these films. Certainly with John Williams retiring, it's not going to be the end of his influence on the Star Wars franchise going forward. I mean, the impact he's had on it will be felt in years and years to come. Just the main themes, you're just not going to discard them just because he's retiring from it. They'll carry through to the very end if indeed Star Wars ever does end. Certainly Disney will be hoping it doesn't. But just moving on, Stephen, the next subject we're going to be discussing is the announcement of Jon Favreau coming in to executive produce and write a new Star Wars live-action TV series. I believe it's live-action. What is your thoughts on that? Because that's something we kind of predicted a few weeks back.
It doesn't come as a surprise, John. As you said, we were talking about this in a few podcasts ago in regards to him voicing the alien in the upcoming Solo film. And one of the questions we posed to each other was, is this their way of getting Jon Favreau in the door? Certainly that's the case. Coming on as an executive producer and writer for this live action Star Wars series is something that I think is a good move on Disney and Lucasfilm's part. I think the guy, he's part of the Disney family now, involved in the Avengers, etc., all the Marvel stuff. He's a fantastic director, and more importantly, he's a big Star Wars fan. I think Favreau coming in as an executive producer is a big indication that Dave Filoni could be involved in some capacity. We know the rumblings online, etc., John, in regards to Filoni. Massive success with the Clone Wars and Rebels, and a lot of people thinking that he could do a job one day directing a Star Wars movie. He's certainly got the passion, and he's certainly got the experience, but I think this might be another platform for him. If you've got Favreau as the executive producer, He's going to use the best people he feels possible for how this series is going to, you know, play out. I don't know what time frame this is going to take place, if it's going to be a number of different series that he's going to be, you know, producing. I don't know, but I think it paves the way for guys like Filoni to come in.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, this announcement was announced on International Women's Day, and it got quite a bit of backlash from certain quarters of the Star Wars fandom, as you'd expect. Some parts of the fandom think it's going feminist crazy and they're not doing enough with male characters. Other parts think they're not doing enough to introduce female directors and producers and writers into the Star Wars family. And certainly this announcement got some people's backs up. Just reading some of the comments, maybe hire some people who aren't straight white males, maybe just once. And couple of other comments like, it's amazing that there just aren't any qualified women or people of colour directors or writers out there. I think that's a little bit harsh. I mean, as you said, Stephen, Jon Favreau's a chap who's been involved with the Disney family for over a decade now. He was involved in the film that kicked off the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Iron Man. He directed Iron Man 2. He played a part in the Iron Man films as a sidekick of Tony Stark. He obviously is directing the Lion King reboot, so this is a guy they trust. They know what his skill set is. They know what he's going to bring to the table. This isn't a gamble. This isn't something that's just sprung up out of nowhere and they've just decided we're going to announce this International Women's Day to wind up certain people in the fandom. They've had this in mind for a good amount of time now, so that's just ridiculous. I'm sick of these social justice warrior types just coming in. Both sides, come on, just give it a rest. Seriously, man. This guy's qualified. I want to see what he brings to the table. I'm very excited what he's going to bring to the table. He's obviously a brilliant director. He knows how to write. Very interesting to see what sort of directors he's going to come in. What these people are failing to forget is he's just executive producing and writing the series. He's not directing it. He may come in and direct a couple of episodes. The nature of TV series these days is you can get 3, 4, 5 different directors in to direct various different episodes. That's always been the way it's been. Obviously, you had Vince Gilligan producing and directing episodes of The X-Files, went on to produce and direct Breaking Bad, so it opens up many opportunities for people of colour, directors, writers, to come in and collaborate. You could have a Jordan Peele coming in and doing something. I don't know, man. The possibilities are endless. You could very well, and I do suspect Dave Filoni will come in and be involved in a big way. This is a guy who just knows Star Wars. He gets Star Wars. As you can see with the Clone Wars, the success of it, introducing characters which were originally hated and then became very beloved, like Ahsoka Tano. He knows how to introduce characters from the old canon and make them relevant again, how to utilise characters like Darth Vader. He's seen as heir apparent to George Lucas. I certainly think, and I agree with the likes of Christian Harloff, that he should 100% be taking Kathleen Kennedy's job. She should take a step back, maybe just act as a producer and let him take a control of the creative side of things. Certainly though, I think Kennedy will just stay at a part of the movie related things. She'll let Favreau and Dave Filoni take over the TV side of things, and I can't wait to see what they produce with this TV series. The options are endless. In terms of timelines, don't know where it can take place, Stephen. There's so many options. You could have it take place before the original trilogy, before the prequels. Don't think we'll get an Old Republic. I think that's just not going to happen now. I don't know what their ideas are with that. Certainly love to see that come to fruition at some point. My main guess and probably choice would be for in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. I think that's the biggest time period we've not seen a lot of. I love to see it take place in there. There's a whole host and plethora of options you could bring to the table with that. You could see Darth Vader coming back in. You could see the Emperor coming back in. Anything to get Ian McDiarmid back involved with Star Wars, I want it to happen. So there's a whole host of options and it excites me greatly.
Yeah, Rebels is set in between that time period, isn't it? Yeah. It's certainly probably the most appealing. It's just unfortunate that the period between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens is obviously a big gap as well, probably a bigger gap than that period. But the issues you'd have with that is that you'd have a television series that would have to not centre around the main characters because it's just physically impossible to have Luke Skywalker just after Return of the Jedi, Princess Leia, without it being a different actor or a different actress. And it's just unfortunate that they can't really cover that in that sense. They certainly could do standalone films in that period, you know, as you mentioned on a previous podcast, John, so Sebastian Stan coming in, you know, and doing a Luke Skywalker movie at that period. Certainly wouldn't like to see a Luke Skywalker film in between episode 3 and 4, you know, wandering around his farm, going to the Toshi station. Not very interesting stuff.
We got that in the deleted scenes, didn't we?
Yeah, exactly, and that's why they're deleted scenes. And that horrendous hat and goggles that he wore as well. I'm glad they ditched that. But yeah, I'm going off on one here. The time period is certainly not something that's been confirmed yet. But just getting back to these social justice warriors, John. Probably the timing of the announcement is debatable. I don't think it's deliberate. I certainly agree with you. I think Favreau's known about this for probably even before he was on board for the voice work that he's going to be doing in the Solo film. He already have his thoughts in place what he wants to do. It's certainly a good opportunity to bring Darth Vader back into the fold. But it also depends on, you know, the Star Wars film series that's going to be coming out, where that's going to be set, what Rian Johnson's going to be doing with his trilogy as well, because they don't want to obviously duplicate what they're doing. So it does certainly point to a time period in between 3 and 4. How that work with the Rebels series, I'm not sure. But the other thing as well, I would like to mention is that as Favreau as an executive producer, will be bringing in the best people possible. And it doesn't matter if you're purple and you've got 2 heads. If you're good at doing the job, you will be doing the job. It's as simple as that. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, if you're black or white, doesn't matter. I'm fed up with these people. Just this is the joys of the internet. Everyone's got an opinion, John.
Yeah. I'm not going to go into that, Stephen. I've touched on that so many times before. I'm sick and tired of discussing it, really. The people just wind me up. Moving on swiftly, just discussing the time period further, Stephen. I agree with you. It should be between 3 and 4 for me. I want to see McDermott back. I've seen it discussed that we could maybe see a continuation of the Purging of the Jedi, with Vader taking them down. That's something I'd love to see, man. Other ideas, you could have an underworld sort of a setting if the show, a Star Wars story, is not going to focus on that. Certainly by the looks of it, it's going to focus on some sort of a heist, so maybe we aren't going to get to see Jabba the Hutt after all. So maybe the rise of a young Jabba the Hutt, that could maybe traverse multiple decades, years. We could see it starting way back in the prequel era and then moving right up to after the original trilogy, like the Lost Stars Star Wars book from Claudia Gray. It took place over a good 20-30 year, I believe. Maybe tripping there, I don't know. So the possibilities are endless. I'd love to see Vader involved. I'd love to see Palpatine involved or the Emperor involved. But there is other options in there. You could certainly have a Mandalorian war type thing going on, which is something that's always interested me. You could maybe even have Mara Jade coming in from the old canon. We get to see that great character. Certainly her and Thrawn are 2 characters I absolutely loved in the expanded universe. Probably the only 2 that I felt would ever possibly come into the new canon. And she's not come in yet. Thrawn's been introduced in Rebels. So the possibilities are endless. Very, very excited by this. And also it's going to tie into that streaming service as well, Stephen, so we'll probably get that very soon.
Yep, I'll be cancelling my Netflix if that's the case. And signing up to that one. Just touching on Claudia Gray there, John. You know, we spoke about the actors being involved and the directors, etc. That could possibly be involved. Do you think it's a good idea to involve the writers of the Star Wars novels, like Claudia Gray and Timothy Zahn and etc.? Do you think that's a way of bringing them into the Star Wars family?
I certainly hope so, Stephen. Timothy Zahn, phenomenal writer. I remember his Thrawn trilogy. I read his Thrawn duology as well. Guy that just gets Star Wars. I remember reading them and I was just engrossed in it. It was page turners. It felt like you were watching a Star Wars film. The way he captured the imagination and described things. I actually think he wrote a better Luke Skywalker than J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson did. he was amazing. Look, he was off fighting battles alongside Mara Jade, getting into caves and fighting off these winged aliens and all of that, and it was just, he had fighting the Jedi Master, the deranged clone, don't know, can't remember what it was a clone of, but it was amazing anyway. And I'd love to see him involved as a guy, just like Filoni, who gets Star Wars, he knows how to write Star Wars, so I see no reason why he can't write a screenplay and make a very good and interesting film that captures the feel of it all. Claudia Gray, much the same. Bloodline was amazing. Lost Stars is, even now, the best Star Wars canon book that I've read. Unbelievable book, the way it had the dual perspective, and you've got to see things in the original trilogy from a different perspective. Just amazing. I can't see why this woman can't come in and write a screenplay or even help write episodes for this series. I see no reason why they can't do it. And it certainly shut up the social justice warriors as well, because then you'd have a female coming in and writing, and that would end them. But just getting back to Dave Filoni, I want to see this guy getting involved, though, I really do. I keep saying it, but I think this is a perfect opportunity for him to get his foot in the door, involved in live action. Obviously, he's done animated series. That's a completely different thing to live action. So get him involved in directing live action, working around a set with actual actors. Not that voice actors aren't actors, we've got into that before. Mark Hamill's amazing. He done voice acting. Can be difficult, more difficult than actual acting at times. But I'm getting sidetracked. I want to see him getting his experience in live action direction, and then maybe going on and doing some series and films going forward, because he's an amazing director who really does get Star Wars.
Live action was obviously talked about back in the George Lucas days. I remember it was bandied about on the internet probably about 10 years ago, John.
Yeah.
It was certainly something that I thought that Lucasfilm at the time under George Lucas should have pursued. I think the Clone Wars, which is about 10-year-old now, was the perfect stepping stone for these creators, guys like Filoni, etc., the writers, to really dip their toes in the water and see how the Star Wars fans would react to it. It's a big step going from the film side of Star Wars into a television series. The Clone Wars served a purpose into sort of bedding in that process, and it would have been interesting to see how Lucas would have carried on in that vein with a live action series. So I'm glad to see that it is coming to the surface now. This television series has been talked about for the last few years on social media, what they would do, whether it be sort of a part of the streaming service on Netflix with a kind of a Star Wars underworld type thing going on or whatever, or a series of bounty hunters or whatever. It remains to be seen what's going to be written and produced, but it's exciting times for Star Wars fans in regards to live action.
Yeah, and if it does come out next year, then it's going to be some year for Star Wars with the Disney theme park stuff and all those things going on. Just moving on, Stephen, to the third and final topic of the Force Friday show. We're just going to have a little discussion about Mark Hamill finally getting his star on the Walk of Fame, just a ceremony which also involved two other prominent figures from the Star Wars franchise, that being Harrison Ford and the great George Lucas. And he is great, despite all the criticism he's got. I think a lot of people are looking at George in a different light now, Stephen, aren't they? But what was your thoughts on Mark getting the star?
I thought it was well deserved. We actually talked about this on a previous podcast when it was first announced that he received it. Absolutely delighted for the guy. I watched the 45-minute film on YouTube, courtesy of Variety. It was one of these processions, where the council of the guys that present it, the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, it was, I don't want to say long and winded, but they had Mark Hamill standing for a very long time before he got round to making his speech, and we do know that Mr. Hamill likes to talk. Just touching on George Lucas and Harrison Ford, very good friends with Mark Hamill. I'd always felt that Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill had a strange relationship. You had one guy that, distanced himself for so long on the franchise, and one guy that was very enthusiastic about it. And I didn't realise they were as close as they were till, I heard Harrison Ford's speech. I think he was getting quite emotional by the end of it. He called him pal, well deserved, and it was a great occasion for Mark Hamill and his family. It was a great turnout. Probably not as big a turnout as Harrison Ford claims he had for his star, but nevertheless, it was a very big day for the Hamill family.
Yes, I didn't watch the full show, Stephen. I just watched the highlights. I don't think Lucas done a speech, did he? Or did he? I don't know. If he did, I missed it. I just seen him taking photos, standing with the photos, and he looked as though he wanted to be anywhere other than where he was. I don't blame him. I know he's quite a reserved chap. I don't think he does public occasions. Certainly, judging on the way he dresses, he's not interested in tarting himself up for these sort of events. He just wears a stonewashed jeans and night trainers, and that's it. The guy doesn't care. And I wouldn't either if I was a multi-billionaire. But yeah, I completely agree about Harrison Ford. His speech was quite poignant, quite heartfelt. He was getting emotional at times. And mentioned obviously the passing of Carrie Fisher and how he could feel her presence and how it was a shame that she wasn't there. And yeah, I mean, it was nice seeing him. And he was talking about the screen tests for A New Hope and him being alongside Mark Hamill and how he was just talking about his acting talent, how he never doubted that he'd have a successful career. But obviously, he wished him all the best and congratulated him for it. So that was nice. In terms of Mark Hamill's speech, I think it says at the start he was going to be speechless. He'd never been so speechless since The Force Awakens or something along those lines, cracking jokes. It was also a great week for Mark, announcing and presenting the Oscars, and now he gets his star on the Walk of Fame. I think I was doing him a slight disservice in that podcast we mentioned when I says it was kind of you have to write in and kind of a campaign for it. I don't think that was the case. I think now, having read into it a little bit further, that you can have fans raise the money and put the name forward for the actor to get it, and I think that's certainly been the case here. I think the fans have finally raised the $10,000 or whatever it is and got him his star, so it's very nice. It's nice to see him getting rewarded there. Mark Hamill's a great actor. We've discussed that in the previous podcast. Absolutely love the chap on and off his screen. He's got a great personality, and as Harrison Ford actually says, he's always been a reserved and honest chap, and he's bought into the Star Wars fandom over the 30-40 year period since it was released, and yeah, I'm just glad to see he's been rewarded for it. And I love the stuff he was doing with Jimmy Kimmel as well, with the whole Jack Hamill thing. It sums the two of them up. Love the two of them.
Yeah, he's been a great ambassador for Lucasfilm for many years now. I know that there was a point during the 1990s where he was fed up with people wanting to talk about Luke Skywalker, etc. But I think now, he's at an age where he's embracing this sort of second wind in his career, if you like. I'm so happy for the guy, because for so long, he knows, and we all know, that he was very much typecast. That says a lot about his his input and his time invested in making sure that character became what it was, and that's a lot down to Mark Hamill. Obviously George Lucas created the character, but the actor carried on the presence and the essence of the character, and that's what made the character what it is today. Away from Star Wars, as you said, his voice acting, I think he's actually did a few voices over the years in Star Wars as well. I forgot to mention, I think they not do Darth Revan or something like that in one of the animated series, and more so the Joker. His Joker is so iconic. The voice in the animated series and in the video games as well. He's just such a likeable guy, a very positive guy. If you've ever seen these video clips on YouTube of the press invading his privacy, if you like, he could be going out to get some groceries. He's never rude. He takes the time to answer their questions as best he can, even when he probably doesn't feel like he wants to. He never lets you never see another side to him in that instance. He's very much vocal on social media, whether it be politics or not, and he's just an all-round nice guy, and I'm delighted for him. I think he's deserved it. I'm just surprised it's taken so long for him to be awarded it.
Yeah, I mean, the final couple of things I would say on the subject, Stephen, is I love that thing he done on Twitter a couple of days ago, maybe a week ago, with a little girl who was scared to go in and wear a Star Wars t-shirt at school in case she get bullied or slagged for wearing it. and just the response to it with a little gif from The Last Jedi of him flicking his shoulder. That was great. That sums the man up. And just the final thing I'd say is just the impact of the Luke character on me personally. I think he's just one of the greatest characters ever put to cinema. Just an amazing character, and I can't think of anybody else who could have portrayed that character. You think of the likes of Kurt Russell, I think, was up for it. I can't imagine anybody else other than Mark Hamill, and that speaks volumes for him. Just my favourite character in Star Wars forever, and he will forever will be. There's nobody going to top him. Amazing character, amazing actor. Absolutely delighted he got it. And what else can I say?
That just wraps up this week's episode of Force Friday. We'd just like to thank you once again for tuning in, and we will be back next week.
Remember guys, if you're enjoying the content we're putting out, then subscribe to us on YouTube and on iTunes and Google Play at the Movie Burner Podcast, and also pop on and give us a little follow on Facebook and Twitter at Movie Burners. You can also catch up with all the latest reviews we're putting out on the Movie Burner blog at movieburnerentertainment.org. Until the next time, goodbye.